What is up, guys? Coop here, and today I've got another build video to show you guys of the Red Prince in a build I like to call Dragon Guard. So I have been playing the Red Prince for a good while now, and I gotta say he is very good with using his fire. His fire-based abilities are just amazing, and I try to figure out a sort of build to go around with that. Also, his default is that he's supposed to be like a fighter. However, I try to think of a way to make the magic aspect of the fire mix with that of the fighter. And while that is very difficult and almost near impossible to do, especially late game, because you get into this point where you kind of split between magic and that, and you can't have heavy gear and whatnot. Overall, I eventually came up with a build that really works well, and it kind of combines the two in a way to where it works out very perfectly. So, in order to understand the Red Prince, we'll actually look at his abilities that he gets when you start the game. So the first thing is Dragon Blaze. This is sort of his fire-based ability, which makes a frontal cone, which deals 5 to 6 damage, and leaves a fire surface behind, which is very important because it burns them for up to 2 turns, and it destroys some of their magic armor. And that is one of the key abilities that we're going to be using. The next thing is he's got his Demonic Stare, which is his source-based ability, which just drains the magical armor from the target, and you gain that much for yourself. We need that magical armor because this is going to be a fire-based heavy build, so we want to make sure that we actually don't get burned, because, you know, throwing fire everywhere is good, but getting burned is, well, it hurts. And the next thing we're going to be doing is looking at Sophisticated with some of the talents here. Sophisticated is actually the more important one because it gives you fire resistance and poison resistance. So if you have undead in the party with like abilities such as contamination and whatnot, it's not that bad of a loss of changing that fire into poison. You're still able to resist some of the damage, which is pretty nice. Especially since poison damage in general doesn't do too much damage, and having that resistance is kind of nice, especially if you have undead in party and you need a quick heal. It's not the end of the world for the Red Prince, but the fire resistance is the key thing that we're looking at here, and combining our fire-based abilities will make sure that we abuse that to holy hell. And the next thing is we have +1 in persuasion, so make sure that this guy is doing a lot of your talking for the group, especially in a solo base character. I would highly suggest using this character as kind of the focus. A lot of people try to stick to one character, and that's good, but keep in mind there are characters who have higher persuasion, and that kind of helps you out a little bit more. So the next thing is we're going to be actually looking at the presets. The attribute points I went with is I did 1 in intelligence and 2 in constitution, just to give us a little bit more life, especially since we're going to be running around in flames a lot. We want to make sure that we're not dying really fast from our own work. And also, I just found that intelligence is good just because it boosts up our fire-based skills. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, well, why not just do strength to give you sort of that heavy armor and all that? And believe me, I really wanted to make that work. However, heavy armor and building with fire doesn't really work out. You could try to split the damage, but then you are just having a half-assed character, honestly, compared to the rest of the group, which will make it a little bit tougher on difficult modes. And rather than having a really good spellcaster and a really good fighter, you're just having this hybrid that's not really good at anything. And when you need like a role of somebody who could destroy armor and whatnot, so you can use your other spells like turning someone into a chicken or petrifying or whatnot, it's important to focus on one damage type. Even though in the past I've said for different ones it's decent to have, but this is like a build I would highly suggest for tactician play, that you stick to the constitution and intelligence. So let's actually look at the abilities. We're going to do Pyro and Geomancer. We're going to do Pyro because of it giving us our flame-based abilities and increasing our flame damage, which is just the key part of what the build is. It also boosts up our racial, which is really, really nice. And then next we'll have Geomancer, and this is sort of what gives us our damage boost to our different abilities, such as Poison and Earth, and it gives us more physical armor restoration, which is kind of key for what we're going for. Next, I wouldn't actually put Civil in this. I would put it in Persuasion, just so you have really, really high Persuasion, so that whenever you talk to somebody, you know you're going to make that check, which is great for conversations. Next, we're going to be doing our skills. I chose Fossil Strike. Fossil Strike is a ability that not only slows somebody, but it puts an oil surface, which, if you do it correctly, adds more fire, which makes them burn more. Also, you can manipulate it to, say, with a contamination spell, or someone else in your party can use it. Maybe set up a totem there to constantly add slows. It just has more uses than other abilities that we could use. Like, I was debating on using Searing Dagger and Ignition and everything, but having Fossil Strike gives you that extra utility in the toolkit. It's a heavy debate, but I personally found it to be a lot better. You guys might have some differing opinions. Also, it does scale with intelligence, so that's why we have intelligence, which is really nice. And now we're going to get into our next ability, which is Ignition. Ignition sets all enemy characters around you on fire, and it deals 3 to 4 fire damage and ignites all sustainable surfaces. So this is where it's all about. This is what the build's all about, is making fire everywhere. And that's very important because, well, your powers are getting stronger because of your pyrokinetic. And it's good to have fire just in general because you can combine it with like poison to make explosive damage. You can use water to make fog. There's all these different things that you can do. Now, you might be wondering, why not Searing Daggers? Because Searing Daggers, you can make a precise attacks and where you want them and everything. And that is true. That is true, but in the event that there is more than 3 enemies, or a whole room of just one particular like oil or something like that, you want to make it to where you can hit the whole entire room. Also, this actually hits some of your allies, while this hits only the enemies. But the surfaces still do damage your friendly allies. So keep that in mind, but this does actually still hurt. This one does not. Also, it only costs 1 point rather than 2 points here, and has a shorter cooldown. Just really nice in general to have. Next, I chose Fortify. I chose Fortify just to give us a little bit more of a different type of armor. Right now we have heavy mage armor with a variety of our other abilities, but having Fortify just gives us a way of having physical armor so we don't just die really quickly, because this is a very heavy aggro build, and that can be very troublesome later on. Okay. So, what type of gear are you going to be wearing with this character? Like I said before, we don't have strength, but we still have constitution. So constitution will still allow us to have certain things like heavier shields and whatnot later on throughout the game, which is great to have. But we're going to be specifically probably focusing on medium armor or light armor, just in general. As it kind of sucks because I really do want to have like heavy strength, like plate armor, but it just does not allow that. But the important part is getting the shield. The shield is very important because it gives us that magical armor which we need to be standing in the flames, because there's going to be a lot of fire. Now, the talent I chose is Elemental Affinity, which is a very weird one to say because a lot of people are going to be listing off a variety of different ones. But over the course of the game, trust me when I say that this is one of the best ones to choose talent-wise. And the reason for that is because it increases the cost of your skills by 1 while standing on the same element. You're going to be standing on fire a lot. And I mean a lot. And that is going to be very important, especially because you're going to be making some of these spells cost significantly less. And believe me when I say, a free ignition is better than a 1-cost ignition. And of course, later on, we don't have that many spells right now. We only have 1 fire-based skill. But when you go to Fort Joy, there's a vendor who sells a lot of pyrokinetic stuff. I would just suggest killing him, just taking all the abilities here. But it's nice to have because you can have a 0-cost ignition and 1-cost Searing Daggers, which is just insane. But that's just a nice little build overall. Now let's actually dive in and look at some gameplay. Alright, so let's actually dive into the gameplay. So your starter is, you're going to obviously want to Fortify right off at the start. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is do a Fossil Strike. And then do what I like to do, which is catch it on fire. So now this character is running over trying to hurt us, but we're just going to keep her in the flames. So constantly causing some burning to go on, doing that, and then walking away, and walking away more. keeping ourselves a little bit of distance, but we have that armor. Obviously she's a mage-based character and we don't have quite a shield yet, but that's okay. Just keep causing flames more and more, and we're just going to keep running. Now over the course of the time, you're obviously going to get more weapons, which is going to greatly help out your ways of surviving. But basically this is how the build works. And then, because you already have that fire, this is going to instantly turn into just a fireball, causing a massive explosion and killing her a lot faster than most characters. And then as you can see, while standing in this, it can usually cost for free basically. But keep in mind, I am still burning, I'm still taking damage, which kind of sucks. But over the course of time, you'll be able to get magical resistance to be able to survive a little bit better. Otherwise, you'll be burning like this. So keep in mind to always try to get magic resistance over the course of the game, because that's going to be very important. Just try to pick up a shield as soon as possible so you can constantly keep yourself up with that shield up ability. But as you can see, I killed this girl faster than any other build out there, and this makes it a really, really good mage, especially as a fighter and as a person who can be like in the middle of the field. It's a very good mid armor class hero to help you out with your overall gameplay. I hope you guys enjoy the build. I know it's a little bit more chaotic than most. I know it's a little bit sporadic and there's fire everywhere, but I just wanted to show you guys overall all the pros and cons of this build. I think it's one of the best builds out there. I think in a party setting, it can potentially just mop the floor with everything. And if you have like a summoner or any other people that can partner up with that fire-based attacks, you're set. You're golden. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.